All good? All right, good stuff. So, welcome back to another episode of Access Granted. I'm delighted to have on the sofa today Mr. Dave Rogers. Dave, thanks for being with me.
Thanks very much. This is
So-
a nice office.
Hey, mate, it's not bad, is it? Yeah. I'm.
Didn't think you were making this much, but
No, I wish I was, but I'll use it as inspiration, really. So, for those that are just listening, we're sat on must be a £6 million Sunseeker, looking over Paul Quay. Yeah, it's not a bad place to be, is it?
it's great.
On a Thursday.
Not too bad.
It's actually the wife's birthday today.
Oh, thanks very much.
Yeah, I know. This I'd rather tell her when she's watching it that I'm sat here and interviewing yourself. But I'm delighted to be here with you in particular.
You too.
So why don't we always start off with just a little bit of background? So give us a little bit of background on yourself.
Local Pool, born and bred. Other than a little stint abroad, I've always been local. Family are local. Started off as an estate agent. Left school and didn't really know what I wanted to do. I'd always liked property because my dad was in construction. He wasn't a developer. He was more of just a general contractor. But I'd always enjoyed it. Did a little bit with him when I left school and realised that I didn't like the cold. I didn't like lifting heavy things. And I didn't like being shouted at by my dad all day. So I quit that. And then decided to be an estate agent. That was mainly because I saw a lad go past me in a BMW, and I thought, well, that's great, and I want one of those. And I asked him, because it was in my town that I grew up with, and he said he was an estate agent. So I said, well, that's what I want to do, because I want a BMW. And I was very lucky whereby my first job was as a junior, and I went to a company called Lloyd's down in Lilliput, which at the time, sort of, mid-90s, Sandbanks was just sort of on its way up. And the guy that ran the business was a really good marketer. And I only realised this afterwards. There was nothing premeditated. It was just luck. I just went in as the T-boy. But I kind of learned from real old school property guys how to make money, how to negotiate a deal.
What stuff did you learn in that process? When you say old school,
People.
like property guys,
It was dealing with people and almost like the ability to whoever walks through the door from whatever type of background, being able to sort of adjust yourself and your mentality and the way that you talk or the way you act to that person. And I think that for anybody that's running a business, you have to be able to talk and deal with all types of people. Because if you just kind of like pigeonhole yourself with one type, then you're kind of quite restricted. So he taught me firsthand, I think, sort of how to deal with different types of people. So that was good fun, and I really enjoyed it.
how long were you there?
Probably till like my mid 20s. So however long that would have been, sort of 7, 8 years. Yeah. When I went away, worked for another company because I thought that would be a better move, offered a bit more money, and then ended up going back. I think I went back about 3 times over that period.
Right, okay.
Just kept going back to him saying, can I have my job back?
He always said yes.
Always said yes.
Always as a T-boy,
Yeah.
or you obviously progressed during that time?
Yeah, I mean, it was, even that's quite interesting because I was only allowed to deal with certain properties due to my age. So, you know, he would say, oh no, you're only allowed to show viewings on houses at 250 at the time. And then as you got a bit more experience, he'd up that amount until you ended up getting, you know, everything across the board.
Yeah.
But yeah, you kind of had to earn your
stripes.
keep with him as well. Yeah.
And then after that?
So
what's
after
the next part of your
that, I ended up going off with my dad, who, like I said, he was a building contractor. But at the time, property was a real, you know, property was going through the roof. You couldn't not make money. And what I'd realised was that I was finding a lot of really good property deals, and I was just handing them on a plate to people.
How are you finding them?
Oh, just every day knocking on the door, dropping
Good
a card through.
old-fashioned
Old-fashioned,
hustle.
yeah, knock on the door. You know, this is all like, I don't even think Rightmove was a thing in those days. It was, you know, you'd still get the old paper printout. So yeah, if you wanted to get a property to sell, you'd go and knock on a door. So I was doing this, and then I'm lining them into other property developers, and they're making a load of money. And I'm thinking, well, hold on a minute. I'm finding the deals. You know, my dad's got a construction business. Other than the money, we've kind of we could do it ourselves. So we did. And again, in those days, you could walk into most banks and they were quite keen to give you money to do property development. And when I say development, it was refurbs, it was splitting a house into 2 or 3 flats, that kind of thing. And we did that and we enjoyed it, and it was great working together. And through no fault of our own, 2008 financial crash, and the banks just stopped giving people money. So we didn't lose any money, but our business kind of came to a juddering stop. So that was the start.
That was a bit stressful.
Yeah, it was.
Especially working with working with your family on it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Like I say, we didn't lose money. We just stopped making any. And by no means had we smashed it. We were just earning a living. And, with my dad being at the age he was at, he was like, well, look, I'm kind of, sort of retiring now. So I think you might have to just go off and find something else to do.
Did you always have that entrepreneurial itch? Going from, like, saying, working in the estate agency in the car, and then moving forward to, seeing that you're getting the deals, going out on your own, with your father.
Yeah.
Always wanted to run your own company? Was always that part of the plan?
I think that was always the plan. And I mean, there was talk of, should, and like my best mate, who I'll get onto later, was also an estate agent at the same time. So we went through the journey together, and we were like, should we set up on our own? Should we set up a branch somewhere? And we just never really got around to doing it. But yeah, I think I didn't really like having a boss. Even though everyone I'd ever worked for was always great,
Yeah.
I just liked the idea of being able to make my own decisions.
Row your own boat.
Yeah, I think you're the same. That's why you're where you are.
Yeah.
You don't really like listening to people, other than the wife, probably,
Yeah,
on her birthday.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think most people have. Some people do, and some people don't.
Yeah.
My mate Mark, who I'll refer to quite a few times throughout this, has never really had that massive desire to work for himself. He does now, but for many, many years, he was quite happy going to work, earning a living, and going home.
Yeah.
I think everyone's packaged differently.
Yeah, so true. And like, when I think about myself, obviously I like that now, and I'm a big believer, and I always had an inclination that I wanted to run a business, or like a passion for it. But the reason I really had to start is because no one wanted to give me a job. I went to Bournemouth Uni and basically like you partied and watched movies.
Yeah.
My attendance was like 4%. So like I literally almost got thrown out around that. And then you come out of scraping a degree and no one wants to give you a job. So I'm like, yeah,
I've got to create a
I've
job.
got to create a job. That's literally was what I was. I'm going to create a job.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a job as the stacking shelf Sunday, Monday, Tuesday night. And then Monday to Friday in the day, I'm going to get off and, try and create something from scratch. So,
And there's a lot of
some of it's circumstances, my point. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur or an inventor or something. A lot of things are created and designed out of their own desire,
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure if you look at an inventor who's created some weird little widget, it would because, I needed that for myself.
Yeah, it's like scratching your own itch.
Yeah.
I do think that a lot.
Yeah.
So 2008 financial crisis.
Yep. Just done then.
Yep.
Then I was done. Like, no one's giving jobs, and that's across the board. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. There's so many people out of work and struggling. Had no qualifications. I had my experience, but like I say, the property market's just dead in the water. So I was really stuck position. And I thought that the way forward would be, to follow my dad. So he had been in construction for many years. Do you know what? I'll just do the same, because even though I'm not hands-on, I understand it. So he's got guys around him, friends, family friends, people that go back years and years. I can call on him. We can set up a building company. So I looked at doing that for a while. And that was at the point when the whole internet was starting to get bigger
traction.
And bigger.
Yeah.
I thought, right, we need a website. So I went to a company, or to what I thought was a company, started chatting to them, wanted a website built, and just really got on with the guy who I was dealing with, who ran the company. Met up with him. Turns out that even though I Googled web designers Bournemouth, he was actually based all the way up in Birmingham. And when I asked him, he said, well, that's why I'm good at my job, because you've looked for something in Bournemouth, but I've come up. So I thought, well, he's the man for the job.
Yeah.
So we started building something together, and then I very quickly realised that we were spending more time talking to each other just about business and ideas and, You know, he was a real kind of do it kind of chap. To the point where he said, just Dave, ignore what you're doing. Like, it's not the future. Yeah, you'll earn a living and you'll probably do really well. But listen, like, the industry I'm in is kind of where it's at, which I knew of, but I'd never been involved in it. So next thing, I find that I'm getting myself up to Birmingham. I'm meeting this guy. We're hit it off straight away. And he basically said, look, I can build anything online. I can build any software. I can market. I can do SEO, all these things that I'd never really heard of before. SEO nowadays is quite a common phrase and term, but in those days, it kind of wasn't.
Yeah,
People didn't
right
really
at
get
the
it.
beginning of that wave.
Whereas he was right in the heart of it all. He said, I'm great at doing all that. I'm just really bad at dealing with people, whereas you're not. You're used to it. So for me to be able to sell my services, whether it be website, SEO, blah, 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 I kind of need someone like you out there finding these people and closing those deals for me just to sit in my little cave and build it. So I thought, well, do you know what? That works really well. So we set up a web design and SEO business, and it went well. So we did that for a number of years. I would travel up to Birmingham quite a lot. But again, it was, you could work from home. It's all online. It was Skype in those days, not Zoom and Teams and no WhatsApp. So it was just, turn your Skype on in the morning and we'd essentially be sat in the same office. And then one day he came up to me and he said, I've really found and discovered something that's quite interesting, which is Forex trading. Now, again, I didn't understand anything about it. I'd heard about it, but didn't get it. And then we became affiliate marketers for the Forex industry. So that would be a matter of just, sourcing and generating leads through all these weird and wacky ways that Dave on his computer would do. And then we'd just feed them into different brokers around the world and be paid. So we did that for quite a few years.
Right, okay.
And it was a real up and coming industry. Again, quite a lot of luck. It was kind of before everybody sort of knew about it, whereas nowadays a lot of people hear it or see it on football shirts and this and that. This was all quite a long time before that.
Where did you take that business to together?
Where did we take it as a business?
Yeah, you started doing that for a couple of years.
Yeah, we did that for a number of years. We built that up to about 25 tech guys, marketing guys, all based up in Birmingham. The real big switch for us, however, was then when we ended up, we found these two German guys, two German software developers. We met up with them. I think Dave found them through a forum of all things. It sounds a bit strange to meet two German guys on a forum.
Well, I suppose if you're in that world, right?
Yeah,
and you're like heavy, like tech
trying to
developer,
get ideas,
you kind of find other people in those forums that have similar passions and interests. And,
yeah.
well, actually, we're vibing now, right?
Yeah, it's right. So it's a lot of this like online chat, and eventually we all meet. And I'm trying to think where did we first meet? I think it might have been somewhere like Frankfurt. But yeah, Dave and I flew out there. We met them. And one of the guys was really young. I mean, he'd only just turned 18. But like, I've never met anybody before then or since when it comes to software development that's as switched on as this guy.
Right. Okay.
What we'd all basically figured out was that there was a gap in the market for a certain product, and that product was Bitcoin trading, being able to leverage trade Bitcoin as an asset. Okay, so apologize if it's getting a little bit deep.
No. But do take me through that because I want to know what that looks like.
So in the FX world, it's very common for people to trade, the euro, dollar, GBP, etc. All of the different currencies, but crypto.
And I'm basically trying to make my money on the movement of it. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
I'm betting on whether it'll go up or down, or
Correct.
This one's going to be stronger against this one being weaker, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Whereas crypto was starting to make noises.
Mm-hmm. What year is this?
What are we in now? 2024. You're probably talking around about 2014, 15, so 10 years ago, I guess.
Yeah. And Bitcoin was what, 2008 financial crisis, wasn't it? The white paper came out.
Yeah,
That sort of year.
so it's still
Started
very
getting-
new.
Yeah, really new.
Not
Started
many
to get
people know
adoption.
too much about it, apart from
And you getting tipped off because people are asking you when you're doing
that's
your...
the thing. So
Yeah.
people are starting to say, "Oh, I want to try and find a broker that's offering, crypto as an asset." Blah blah blah. So we'd all had the same sort of idea, but had never really, as a group, discussed it.
Okay.
So we started to discuss it, and over a period of about 18 months, we actually developed the software for that to become a reality, and became a really big thing. Fast forward again, and
You must be the first people globally.
pretty much, yeah,
figure it out.
pretty much. There were others that were doing similar, but for the retail market, this was quite new.
So what's that? People like betting on Bitcoin going up.
Correct. Yeah.
You figured out how to
kind of any direction, really.
Yeah.
But it's the mechanics behind how Bitcoin actually works,
Right.
which is a minefield in
Yeah.
itself. But when you've got a guy,
Because it's different to traditional currencies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and when you've got a guy, however, who can unravel pretty much anything sat in front of a laptop, you've got the right guy to be able to reverse engineer
Engineer
stuff
that.
and figure it out.
Yeah.
So
So how do we take this traditional world that we know really well?
Yeah.
There's this new technology, cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
How are we going to bring that to the marketplace in the way that the market's already used to?
Yeah.
In terms of FX.
and also we're trying to learn this ourselves as we're moving along. So
yeah. 'Cause it's a rabbit hole. Bitcoin is a rabbit hole in itself, isn't it?
But I'm on this roller coaster now, because I've gone from one world to a whole different world
Mm-hmm.
very, very quickly, and you're almost kind of like running to try and keep up. Sat there at night thinking, are they going to figure me out yet? Are they going to work out that actually I don't know what this is about?
Yeah.
But for some reason it worked, and it worked because there would be a lot of different meetings with a lot of different people, and getting our foot through the door with those software companies, etc., was kind of like my role as being the guy that can speak to anybody. So it did work. It worked well. We then fast forward again to probably, I want to say 2018, and we realised that we need a support network in-house to be able to deal with clients, deal with different brokers that are subscribing to our software, etc., etc.
Okay, so you end up building that software and then licensing it out.
Correct.
To
Yeah. And then you've got to support those people.
Yeah, so you were licensing out to your previous customers, right? That are sending
Exactly.
you for the leads.
Yeah, and that was the other thing.
Yeah,
So
nice.
we
So
could
you-
then tap into our old black book.
Yeah, so you've got all these customers you're selling leads to.
Yeah.
You figure out, oh, we can create our own software that does this particular thing that the world's going to be crying out for, that needs right now. We've got that product, and now we license it to our
Correct.
customers on
Yeah.
this. And they pay me a royalty for every time someone uses the software.
That's right. It's exactly.
And as the
in a
market
nutshell.
demand's going up,
as the more people are
pipeline in.
using it,
yeah.
then they're
So that business was owning the proprietary technology for that Bitcoin.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
yeah. So we're going off to conferences, conventions, and if you've ever been to a gaming or an FX convention, they're pretty wild. It's
I've never been,
a
but it
bit of
sounds
an
like I should
eye-opener.
go.
I mean, you think all betting companies and casinos and this that, because it kind of fell into that world.
yeah,
So it's good fun.
yeah.
We figured that we needed a call center. We needed a live call center. Yeah, I'm not talking about just the phone ringing, but people on computers, live chat, talking, supporting clients, all around the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
So this would be supporting the web businesses that are providing, not to me, Joe
no,
Public.
kind of would be.
Okay.
Yeah, because we had a system in place whereby if you were the broker, we could plug our support into it.
their support.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So me,
So then
Josh,
when somebody clicked on, I'm having problem here,
with this bit, it'll come directly to you. 'Cause
Correct.
You're doing that. Okay.
Yeah. So I think at one point we were supporting 400,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, how big do you have to grow your support team to do that?
We had, I think the most that we had at one time was 256 members of staff working every day of the year, round the clock. So people would. So there were 3 shift patterns
To cover,
to cover 7 days a week.
Well, because Bitcoin doesn't ever stop, does it?
Never. Trading doesn't stop.
Yeah.
You know, it's a constant round the clock. Christmas Day, you know, Easter Sunday, you name it.
How many platforms are you provided at this point?
Probably 25.
Man, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Do you think about like a business journey, right, that you've been on, from going, you know, estate agency, building, and then you move into like, okay, I need this website, find this guy in Birmingham,
Yeah.
starting working with him, and now it's like, okay, actually the internet's a very new thing that I'm right on the tide now of like being early in this new technology. And you kind of watch that, and then you build out, you know, an aggregator and delivering leads from FX, and then by the way, you just get so much inbound, you know, queries around, oh, this new thing called Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, actually, no one's really figured out how to do this bit in this, and we know that. It's just,
But a huge amount of luck as well.
Yeah, it is a lot, you know.
Then if you'd have said to somebody, oh, this is where it's going to go, and that's where you want to take yourself or your business, you can't make it up.
no, you know, we went to the Fairmont and we had Barry Hearn speak.
Yeah.
And he touched a lot on, you know, luck.
Yeah.
And, you know, you saying that, and I just like mapping out your story then around business, right? No doubt, like you're highly competent, you're great with people and all that stuff, but we all benefit from the serendipity and luck of situations. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
It's one of my favorites. I remember in a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, and he talks about the tallest tree is not the tallest tree because it comes from the hardest acorn.
Okay.
It's also the tallest tree because no other like beavers ate its roots. No other trees got in the way of its sunlight. Do you know what I mean?
Nice. I like that.
It's just a good reminder. And Barry talking about that, and you saying that is like there's just a level of humility and sincerity in the fact that so much of stuff is out of our control. So you know, if you're playing, it's all about me. It's all ego. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely not.
And I don't
It's
think that's
chance-
healthy.
do you
And
know what?
it's just not true.
Yeah, it's chance meetings.
Yeah.
It's had I picked the web designer who was in Parkstone and not the other guy, what would have happened?
Yeah,
You know,
right.
something as simple as that.
Yeah, the deviation in the course of your life.
If my guy wasn't looking for other avenues and he was just quite happy being a web designer, what would have happened then? If the 2008 financial crash hadn't happened, what would have happened? You know, there's all these different
Things.
What if we'd set up an estate agent? Would I be sat around the corner now selling houses? You just don't know.
Yeah.
You know, and that goes sliding
It's funny
doors,
how you
isn't
can't.
it?
Yeah, it really is.
You
Like
know?
looking back and you can see like the dots, how they. But yeah.
Yeah, 100%. How did you meet your wife? You know, if that first meeting had not happened because of
Yeah.
you
well,
wanted to go out
yeah.
with your mates to a different bar or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, it's so true. Like I met my wife on a stag do in Budapest.
There you go.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
in a bar,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
randomly,
what's the
she's
chances of
jo-
that?
outright that she actually goes out on that night,
know.
and we end up in the same place. So
Yeah.
yes,
What a
Yeah.
lucky girl.
she is, mate. I try and remind her that of every day if she's
Sure
in
you
this.
do. Not today. Don't do it today on her birthday.
Yeah. By the way, this is about me.
The thing is though, because it's I had somebody, what was it? I had somebody come up to me once and he was like, "Oh, you're really lucky," and I was like, "Oh yeah, no, yeah. Oh, you're lucky because you know you got the nice cars or you do this." And he went away, and a friend of mine said, "Does that ever like really wind you up?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, you know, them saying that you're lucky. You're not lucky. You've grafted for it." I'm like, I have grafted, and I've lost a lot on the way, but there is a lot of luck as well. And I think anyone that says there's not luck
Yeah.
is talking a bit of shit.
Yeah. I think that is probably the message, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like 100%. They said, you know, luck is preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or you clearly are working really hard and you're putting yourself out
Oh,
there.
yeah.
But you know,
And that's what everybody
you,
doesn't
you
see.
do need like the bit of sun that shines on you every now and again,
Of course,
right?
yeah. But it's also putting your neck on the line as well.
Constantly, yeah, doing it over a long period of
So
time.
that's quite fun.
Yeah.
I quite like that sort of.
What
is
the,
it
what the
gonna-
jeopardy of it?
Yeah. Is this just going to blow up in our face?
Yeah, the risk of it.
Yeah, and it did 100 times before, you know. And certainly when it comes to software developing, that does.
Yeah, I can imagine. So this software you developed, you had 250 people
Yeah.
supporting 28-ish,
Something like
Like
that.
that, brokers.
400,000 clients.
400. Okay, what
Round the clock.
around the clock annually or
Oh yeah,
okay,
yeah.
that's a lot.
a
Okay, so then this is 2004.
No, about but at the peak probably about 2019.
Okay,
Yeah, so not that long ago, 5 years ago.
okay,
Yeah, but happened really fast,
yeah, that is
really fast. So we land. Bearing in mind this was all in Malta as well, because Malta's quite an interesting place. there's a huge amount of call centres that are based in Malta. So if you bank with HSBC, for example, if you pick up the phone or you go on their live chat or whatever, the chances are you're probably talking to somebody in Malta.
Okay, what's that?
I think they just figured out that they're a tiny little island, and the only thing that they can do is tourism. And then the government at some point thought, well, hold on, we need to think of something else other than tourism. And so they started to offer a lot of deals and tax breaks and this and that to companies to go and establish themselves there.
Right, okay.
Malta, again, is also quite what's the word? Almost like a stepping stone for travellers.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll go to, if they're going down from, North Africa, it's the first entry into Europe. If you're coming from the Middle East, a lot of people will travel through Malta and spend a bit of time there. So you get a lot of English-speaking, Canadian, American, Australians living in Malta for a period of time. So why not offer a way to earn money that's just sat in an office behind a desk on live chat, chatting to people.
Nice. Did you move there?
Eventually, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went out there. My business partner, the German chap, he decided to move over to Malta. Realised that this was a really good place to set this up because it was so easy to get staff. And then just because of personal circumstances for me, I also then had the ability to move over there. And also running a company like that with that many people, you need someone on the ground.
Yeah.
And it just naturally was that I was the guy that was probably best stood in front of, managers, team leaders, etc. Whereas, the other chaps that are much better spent in a dark room, staring at a screen with their AirPods in, leave them to it.
Is the license fee on a piece of software like that in the volume that goes through it, or just on the user? How many users?
It's the volume that goes through it.
Okay, so the financial volume that goes through
Correct.
it. Okay,
Yeah.
That would make more sense from a business perspective
Yes.
as well.
Which is, again, was great for us.
Yeah, right. Because
they reckon that we believe that there was $1.5 billion worth of trading volume going through it.
through the software,
Yeah, per year.
1.5 billion revenue. Okay, through the software, yeah, and you're going to be on a fixed percentage, maybe even potentially ratcheted.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
that's going through that. Yeah. So you're basically
You've got to grab as much as you want.
once you've developed like this business, you've developed this software, this business, and you're just out licensing it.
Correct.
Obviously, you got to support it, like you said, and upkeep it. But it's just a cash machine.
It is, but what
You have to keep developing it.
This is what I've been approached over the years since.
Yeah.
I'm developing this app, I'm doing this. What people think is that, an app gets developed or a piece of software or a website or whatever it may be, and it just works. Well, it doesn't just work.
Yeah.
There are squirrels and people behind it that are just going round the clock checking.
Yeah, like debugging it.
Oh, yeah.
Building a
One
site.
tiny little bit of code out of place that we have no knowledge as to how that's happened has changed. And now it's completely let everything go down. So it is a cash cow.
It must. When I
you've got to
say
keep it going.
yeah, absolutely. But it must be a big financial step change in your career at this point.
Yeah, because also I'm learning about it.
Yeah.
I'm having to relearn a whole new industry completely. So
what happened with that business?
we sold it.
Okay.
Yeah, we sold it. 2020, just prior to COVID. Again, luck, because we probably would have struggled to have sold it. Certainly during or after. So yeah, just before COVID, we sold the business.
Or just someone knocks on your door one day and says,
Our largest competitor, and we were at a convention. We'd known of each other, and we were kind of battling for top spot, and it was a very open, relaxed conversation of either we buy you or you buy us, because we're poaching your staff, you're taking our staff, we're butting heads constantly, and we're either gonna go in opposite directions or we're gonna kill each other.
Yeah.
So not literally.
Not literally. Yeah.
But
it just makes sense for one of us to.
Somebody needs to do something, and very quickly, because you think that these things would go on for months and months and months, but you didn't. It was the decision makers chatting away, and they came to us and said, "Listen, we want to buy you out, and then they'll essentially dominate the market." And it was an offer that I was quite tired at that point for many reasons, but I was getting a little bit tired of the industry. And as much as I was dealing with people, I was dealing with staff, and it was just I had enough. I need to get my
Like
feet
recharge,
back.
recharge the battery.
Yeah,
It takes a
kind of
lot of energy.
reset.
Look, you've gone through a huge journey there, haven't you?
Yeah.
And a quick, fast-paced one, and a lot of growth, and you
Yeah.
learn a lot of stuff, and it takes a lot of energy. And sometimes, if someone comes and puts, I'm sure not that's happened to me. And one day it may, like come and put an offer in front of you and say, look, we want to buy this day off hand.
Yeah.
And,
There wasn't much negotiating, I'll be honest. It was a bit like, whack, I'll have that.
yeah.
That'll do. So you have a thought in your head as to what it's worth.
So your number, and the number that came, was it a market? Was there a market difference?
It was higher.
Yeah. So you just
It was higher than I was thinking. So that was a pretty quick. Yeah, let's shake on that.
I'll
one.
take it. Let's go to the
do that.
bank.
Yeah, it was, and it was a cash deal, as they say. You know, there was no, you know, I didn't keep equity in anything. It was this is it. You walk away. Access to the office denied. Literally, like you're done.
yeah.
Which is weird as well.
Yeah, I can
That's
imagine.
really weird.
Quite surreal.
Yeah.
But that's my baby. We built it. Yeah, and like just even going through that process.
I went back because I got on really well with the office manager. He was like our front man. He was ex-British soldier. He was a great guy, and I'm still really good friends with him now. And it was a friendship that grew out of him just literally turning up one day for a job. And a few weeks later, because I stayed living in Malta and like the deal was done and everything was, you know, literally walked away. I called him up and I was like, hey mate, you know, listen, I'm just walking past the office. I'll pop up for a coffee. Oh yeah, all right, pop up. And I sort of went in, and like you could tell that he was a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, like you can't just walk in.
Yeah, it's not
And I
your
was
shit
like,
anymore.
do you know what? You're right. And that was the last time. And I walked out, and I've never been back since. In fact, I think I even left the island for good. Not
end of
that
a
long.
chapter.
Yeah, it was just done. Yeah.
What have you been doing with yourself since?
So that was when I had a bit of time off, as I'm sure most people would do, and then realised I can't really have time off because
Any like lavish blowouts at this point? You're treating yourself.
I treated myself loads. That
You know,
was
because
good.
I only say because you go back to the car that you saw
Yeah.
of like the estate agent, right? And you're like, I'm motivated, I want that. I just want
Yeah.
to, like, you start off your career and then get in as a T-boy, but
Yeah.
now you've accumulated like wealth,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, actually,
Yeah, I'd spent a bit of time like slow progression of filling the garage up,
yeah,
which was like my passion.
yeah.
Um,
That's a hobby, and
yeah, no,
real
I still
passion
do
of
that
yours.
now. I mean,
Yeah.
I love it. I can't help it. I should ban myself from like Auto Trader.
Is there a car that you've never owned but you really would like to own at some point?
No,
You just had them all.
I kind of got the ones I wanted.
Yeah. Well, okay, which one, if you don't mind sharing, which one was one that you really wanted for a long period of time and then you went and got?
The Lamborghini SVJ.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that was like, to me, the pinnacle. I was like, do you know what, that's the one. Because it just looks stupid. You know, it's like Clarkson says, you know, there should be missiles coming out of it. It just looks stupid, doesn't it?
What colour did you go for?
Like a Nardo grey.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the standard colour under.
Mate, very cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I love it. It's ridiculous. You know, it just shoots flames and shouts at everyone. And it's really obnoxious, but
Why not, eh? You only live
I'm
once.
from Poole as well.
Yeah.
Like, you can't change that bit. So
Yeah, a little bit of like a blowout. and
having fun,
bit of
you know,
time off.
Yeah, wanted to, you know, buy a new house. So I moved, etc. That was, you know, a nice thing to do.
Recharge the
but-
batteries.
Yeah, very much so. But I realised that every day was a Saturday and a Sunday. Like there was no massive purpose to get up in the morning. You know, don't get me wrong, not in like a depressive state. I'm just saying, like, you know, there was no real.
You've been grafting for your whole adult life, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And then you go, oh, what am I doing now? I'm having a great time.
And also,
chilling.
you realise that all your mates are at work.
Yeah.
Do you know? So you're like, oh, do you want
So much
do you want to
purpose
go for a
in-
coffee, or do
yeah.
you want to? They're like, I'm kind of working, mate. Like, or, you know, I've got to go home. I'm seeing the missus. I'm taking her out for dinner. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So I needed a real reason to get my teeth stuck into something. And the other thing also, which I'd sort of figured out, was that yes, it's all well and good having the sale of a business and a lump of money, but it was like winning the lottery. And you read all these stories about how people if they're not careful and they don't manage things correctly, they can get themselves into financial trouble.
Yeah.
And if you pick a number in your head, so what's your magic number? If I came to you today and I said, all right, I'm going to buy Bizpedia off you, what's your number? Not don't think in like reality, like as in what it's worth. But if I said to you, I'm going to write you a check today and you can walk away, but you're not allowed to contact anybody else again from Bizpedia, how much do you want?
I'm not sure that's what I want.
Okay, well, that's a good answer.
Yeah. So like, I think I know where you might be going with this. I know. So I want to be happy, right?
Okay.
I'm aiming at. I love what I do, and I want to be the best at it.
But if I said 10 million,
yeah,
you'd say that's.
You give me 10 million, Dave. Is this a verbal contract? Can we just get that?
It's recorded. But you know, it is a mind-blowing amount of money.
Yeah.
Like 10 million is a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure at some point I want to crystallize value for the family and stuff like that. But so.
But we all know that 10 million is an insane amount of money. There's a but to it. Go and buy yourself 3 supercars. Go and buy a nice house on the beach. Go and buy yourself a villa down in Spain. You're starting to dig into that money.
Yeah.
And then you've got to live. You've got to run it, and you've got to live for another 50 plus years. So it starts getting into your head. And it doesn't matter unless you start getting to billions, there is still, it doesn't matter what level you're at, you start to question, like, hold on a minute, if I'm not careful, I could do some silly things here, and all of a sudden we're
you got this whole new problem in your life of protecting and managing.
But the preservation of finance and capital is it is a big headache, and it becomes a job in itself. You're also then susceptible to other people. And you think, well, hold on, is that person trustworthy? Where's that person
like their
come
intention?
From? Yeah. You could get super paranoid.
No,
I didn't.
But I can imagine that.
But you can.
Yeah.
You think, well, hold on, why is this guy calling me? Why is this? So anyway, I kind of dealt with all that in my head very quickly and realised I need something. And my best mate, Mark, still doing his estate agency, but I needed a purpose. So I said, right, come on, let's do something together. And he was straight out there, and he's finding a couple of little deals for us to be able to do together. So we did a couple of refurbs together. Again, this is stuff like I'd done with my dad back in the day. So I knew where I was, but all of a sudden I'm in control because it's our own money.
Yeah, it's not the bank.
No one can touch me with that. So that was great fun, and it made money. And the great thing is that I then had the ability to turn around to Mark and say, just quit. Like, why are you working doing that? Come and do this. Let's do this together and build something up that's going to be a really nice business for, my family, for your family, etc. So we did, and we set up Summit Land and Development.
Okay.
Just based in Bournemouth here. We then moved into doing new builds. So Mark would source the land, he'd deal with the planning, he'd get it all, he'd sort the contractors out, etc. He'd always be able to deal with the estate agents and the solicitors and everything. So he could deal with every aspect of it. We then realised that we needed a few extra people, so he actually went back to the company he worked for, and pretty much kind of took the guys that were there and said, look, come and work with us. So again, they were property lads, they knew the local area, and it was just going incredibly well and enjoyable. All of a sudden now I had somewhere to go each day.
Yeah, and you're working with friends.
Working with my best mate and the other guys, I'm friends with them as well. Could pop into the office. We're nipping out for breakfast in the morning for a meeting.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good. It was good fun times.
Yeah. Fast forward now, where are we at?
So fast forward now, we realise that building houses is difficult. It's not easy. It's long-winded. You've got to find a piece of land. You've got to deal with the landowner, get an option agreement, deal with architects, planners, contractors, build a place, estate agents, solicitors, and then the new buyers.
Yeah,
that's a lot of people, and that's a long journey. And you've got to be careful that you're not just being a busy fool and just jumping onto a deal just to stay busy. My cousin was always working in the city. He was in finance, worked for some really big hedge fund, an American company based in London, and we were sort of just chatting about this whole money management, really, like is your money best spent here or invested here, etc. Around the same sort of time, he was looking for a change. He was a bit kind of tired of being in the city, wanted to be his own boss, but he didn't really know quite where, because he'd always just been, economics degree at university, straight into the city, working for a bank, and then ending up at a hedge fund. And at the time, somebody I know, external to Summit Developments, had come to me and said, "Well, look, would you lend me the money to build my own development?" Which I thought was quite interesting. So looked at the development in question, agreed terms, agreed interest, and it was perfect. So it was like...
Now you are the bank.
Yeah, exactly.
You're the bank now, right?
Yeah.
And you've got all that experience.
But we're also
doing
not the developer.
Yeah, you're not. No, yeah, that makes sense. You've seen every part of that supply chain. You've lived it and breathed it.
Yeah.
You've now obviously gone through your business journey and accrued wealth in the software side of stuff.
Yeah.
And now you're back to
It's almost
to property. You're back to being like, you're the bank in that.
Yeah. Which
in
was
that
the
area.
one that cocked me up in the first place.
Yeah, the irony, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So then we did this deal with this developer, and he's a great guy. Again, he's someone that I'd regard as a friend now, even though we met through business. And I'm still talking to James, my cousin, and I'm feeding this back to him. And we're just like, this is like a no-brainer. We've got the capital. We don't need anybody else externally. And we've got every piece of the puzzle. We've got Jason, Ben, and Mark, who are, the property guys that can figure out the price of something from a mile away.
Yeah.
We've got, James, the finance guy, who really crunches the numbers, left, right, and centre. I've kind of got an overview of everything. Plus, we've got the contacts of other developers that we know. So we started to slowly sort of let people know that this is what we're now doing. So that was probably like 2021.
Okay.
And it...
So literally like a year after sale.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably 6 months of kind of just
Every
bumming
day's a
around,
weekend.
and every day's a weekend to I've got to get stuck into something.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, probably about 2021, give or take. But James was like, look, I had to do a bit of a deal with him, and I was like, you need to quit.
Right.
You need to stop. And he's like, yeah, but come on, I'm in the city and I'm earning good
X
money.
money,
And I'm
yeah.
like, but this is the future. Like, you got to trust me on this. And fair play to him, because there's not many people that would do that. He would have been earning a good wage, and had, the ability and growth to probably go even further. So he said, I'll give you 3 years. He said, I'll give you 3 years of my life, but we've got to make this work together. So we set up Dayzoon Investments, which is a weird, and I won't complicate you with it, but it's a weird mixture of my daughter's name and his daughter's name.
Okay.
So there's
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a proper family office. It's
Yeah.
a family business. And that was it. Just, we were out there. So we were lending money to developers, and it just works really well. We just replaced the bank.
Yeah. Specifically in property deals.
It's got to be property.
Okay.
So we do a bit of like equity release from companies, but the security has to be a property. So it could be a manufacturing company that want to raise £1 million,
Right. Okay.
but will take a charge over their properties,
Got ya.
as in like their
Is there a particular sweet spot of investments you're looking for?
We like
deals?
bridging. So we like you got the development finance, which is from day one. So we're, assisting with the purchase of the land right the way through to, when they've screwed the number on the door. That's quite a long journey. So that's usually a 9, 12 months plus, depending on it. We quite like the bridging, which is just the short term stuff. So you've got a developer who has put a bit of money in himself. He's bought the land. He's started to build. And he's maybe just sort of coming towards the end of the build, or he's midway through, and he just wants a top up to get him over the line.
Right. Okay.
That's something we quite like to do because they're short and fast.
Yeah.
So
It's like a month or a couple of months.
usually sort of 3 months.
Okay.
3 to 6 months. So that's what we class as a bridging loan. But then we'll do the whole lot as well. We'll do from start to finish.
So did James come in on that 3-year promise in 2021?
20. So this is it.
Yeah. So he's
Yeah. Oh, this
is he
it.
saying?
I think it was. Oh yeah. No, he's in.
Yeah.
He's not going anywhere. I think it was something like August of this year.
Right,
We should have had
okay.
a little celebration,
Yeah.
really.
Well, we're gonna see it. I'm gonna see him with you in a couple of weeks' time.
That's
So
right.
we'll have to have a beer
Yeah,
to that.
you should say something to him about that.
Well, I'm glad it's past that covenant period.
Yeah, I don't know whether it was my probation I was on or his.
Yes, yeah.
It's a bit of both. But again, it's a proper family office, as they call it.
Yeah, man,
So-
that's class.
yeah, and we enjoy it.
Well, that's so important in life, right?
Yeah.
Now you're doing this that you enjoy. What's the vision? Where do you want to take it?
So I think the vision's quite interesting because we've got a target as to where we want to get the business, but we have absolutely no intention of selling it. We've got a business which at some point will be very saleable. You'll get a pension fund come in or private equity or something like that who's going to come along, or a competitor who's going to come along and go, look, let's just buy their loan book.
Yeah.
They've got a good brand, they've got great clients, etc., etc. That's a possibility at some point, but it's not something that we'd ever entertain or want. The reason being is because I'd be kind of going back to square one again. And I know that sounds a bit silly, but I don't want to sell a business and
Yeah.
have a load of money sat in the bank again. I
Yeah.
want to.
So that's when you asked me about what my number would be. Like, I'm not sure that's because I know that's where I'd end up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, good to have like 10, 15 million quid or
Yeah.
100 million quid or
And then what?
300 million. Yeah, and then what?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
And
Like,
it's
what am I
not
going
just-
to do? I'm going to miss seeing people, like
Correct.
being around
Yeah.
community, like having a
And
purpose to
you've
go
got,
to work
You've
with.
got a daughter?
Yeah, I got a daughter and a son.
Daughter and right,
Yeah.
okay. What happens to them?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's something that I think people also need to consider.
Yeah.
Is if something happened to me and I left a load of money to my family, that can be quite a dangerous thing to do. So, you go and give X amount of money to a 25-year-old, for example,
Mm-hmm.
just out of the blue, and that can be quite damaging.
Yeah.
So there's 2 points to this. One, if we sold the business and walked away and you're left with a pile of money, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to lend it again, aren't I? I'm going to buy property. I'm going to do this. Well, that's what I've been doing for the last few years.
Uh-huh.
So there's just no point in going back to square one. So we want to create almost like a legacy business. We want to create something that we can hand down again and again. Generational wealth. Whether that's with us, because again, James and I and Mark, and we might turn around in 15 years and go, do you know what, I've had enough. I just want to sit on one of these lovely Sunseekers and go fishing and do this. We probably won't, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are people that may want to.
Uh-huh.
So if we want to do that, we need to, and we're all going to walk away, then we need to put in a management team to run that business. But that's essentially what we would do. So we would get a professional firm in to run our business the same way that we're doing it now, but continuing on until we're long gone. So that's the intention, is to keep this business going and for it to be generational. Because people are always going to build, people are always going to borrow.
Yeah. People are always going to have to sleep somewhere, aren't they, and have a
course
roof
they are.
over their head.
Yeah.
So that's not going away anytime soon.
No.
Yeah, and like you said, everyone's got to fund it. Man, that's smart. Is there you got an ambition for how big you want to get it?
Have I got a...
Ambition for how big you want to get the business?
Yeah, we've got a...
You sort of like goal orientated from that perspective?
Yeah, we've got... So we work in the term of the loan book, so we know how big our loan book is.
So that's how much money you've lent out?
Correct, yes. And we've got a figure in mind that we want.
Because the loan book effectively is you got that out and then you've got your interest set on that loan book. So
that's right.
For someone to come in and be like, I want to acquire you, it's like, I know you've got 300 million on your loan book at the moment and it's at X percent, so I'll happily go buy that over this period of time. I'll happily buy that off you for X. It's quite an easy business to value.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Unless all the people that I deal with only want to deal with me.
Yeah.
But I don't know that, and to be honest, it's not a conversation I'd even entertain. So I'm not interested in that. But we have a target on where we want to get, but that's just an internal, personal goal. You got to have goals. Yeah.
Oh, well, congratulations on being one of the rare people in business that have gone on a journey, and with luck, right, and all that hard work and timing and stuff to, have got to this point in your career.
Fun.
Actually, yeah, I imagine it has. Do you want to share what's been your favourite part of that journey?
Selling.
Yeah,
like that was. I know it sounds silly, but
Yeah.
that I found it really amusing because I flew to Zurich on my own, walked into a law firm, and it's how you imagine it on the TV. You think of that, that long boardroom and a few people sat around, and I was just like the other end on my own. And you literally sign a bit of paper and you're done. It's quite bizarre. They go off into another room, they stamped it. And I can remember walking out thinking, that's really weird.
Yeah,
because that's kind of like how I expected it to be.
It reminds me of some scenes in like Wolf of Wall Street
I know,
where he
it's
flies
just a
off
bit
to
like
like
that-
Switzerland
that
and
was
he's
a bit,
like,
that was a bit peculiar.
well, and then you just check your HSBC or your NatWest or
That's
your
right, and it's just like
Nationwide
that's,
or whoever.
That's strange.
And you just coots and you're just like,
Yeah,
huh.
and then it's like that. Oh, I suppose we better start again now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was quite peculiar. There's been a lot of strange things, I must admit.
Yeah.
Especially dealing abroad and meeting the German guy for the first time it's quite hard to explain. Like a few people have said, "Oh, you need to write a book." Like one of those.
Yeah. Like a memoir.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't fancy it?
No.
What would be your pieces of advice for aspiring entrepreneurs? Give me 3 bits you pass on to business owners.
Don't listen to too many different people. I think that's quite important. I think once you know a very small handful of people, might just be one person, but whoever it is that you think, do you know what, I like this person, the information they give me, I understand. I think that's really important, to not listen to too many people. The usual, the typical, we see it all on Instagram, never give up. But that is true. Like, don't give up. If you really feel that you're onto something, and the only person that's genuinely going to get it is you, because it's your baby and you understand it. And I also think that it doesn't matter what stage of business you're at, you have to have some sort of a goal, whatever that may be. So, if you're selling widgets and you're currently selling 1,000 widgets a month, just get it up a little bit. Or you might have somebody who's like, well, I've acquired 5 businesses and by the end of this year I want to have 10. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter what it is, you've got to keep going.
Yeah.
And also I think people get money driven, and actually that's not the answer either. Because if you're just chasing the money constantly, I think that's quite an unhealthy thing to do.
Is that?
And I know people like that.
Yeah.
They're
You ever been that way?
I think when you're really in the nuts and bolts of it, yeah, you are. But then it starts to go away and you think, oh, this feels a bit unhealthy to do this. And I know people like that. They're not interested. They just want to see a bigger number. Whereas I like what we do now. I like it because I like the people that I'm dealing with. Yeah. I find it
You're enjoying the process of it.
And there's other routes that I could have taken.
And that'll be I'm sure you'll make more money because of that as part of the equation.
In a weird kind of way, I quite like that the money is not a big thing now.
Yeah.
It's kind of released a pressure. Because that's what everybody goes to work for. They go to work, they want to earn money, or they set up a business, they want to do this. And it gets a bit unhealthy.
Yeah.
Do what you enjoy doing. But I think that's kind of what I think I live by now. And actually, I think I've done it all the way through. I've listened to a select few, and I think I'm not interested in what you're talking about. Stop it. I like what he's doing, or I like what she's saying. Or
How
whatever.
do you qualify that in your own mind of who you listen to?
I think it's just instinct.
Instinct, yeah.
I think it is instinct. When someone's you can usually tell when someone's a bit off or something's not quite right.
Trust your gut.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, I like it. I really appreciate you being on and sharing your journey and what a journey it's been.
I don't really talk about it very much.
I feel blessed then that you've come and shared the time with me to talk about it. And as a business owner, I got nothing but respect for what you've achieved.
Thank you.
Because I know how hard it is. Do you know what I mean? And
And it is hard. But that's what I like about your group. Or your company, should I say. I like how I've never been a part of one of these before, but I like it because they're really interesting people, and it's lots of different walks of life and different experiences. But I quite like just talking to people like you do.
Yeah.
Like you said at the beginning, I just enjoy business and I like talking about it. And I get
and
that.
learning,
learning, and you'll always pick up little snippets from somebody.
There's you can probably help me before I get into my last question. Is there something that I haven't asked you that you wish that I had today?
I don't think so.
No,
Caught
or
me
like
on
something
the
that you
hop.
think that you'd want to share with the audience?
No, I think I've covered it.
No, you've done
I've
amazing.
been quite
Let's go.
vocal, I thought.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that there's
It's like therapy.
yeah, just reliving the
It's like
journey,
weirdest therapy.
going down memory lane.
Yeah, it's funny though when you get talking about stuff and you start
Yeah.
to remember. Like shit, yeah, I remember that, or I missed that. Didn't miss it, but you know, like
Yeah.
I didn't think of that bit before today.
Yeah, I really enjoyed like this talk, and I really enjoyed like understanding like the business journey, and also there's loads of ways to skin a cat to make money, right?
Yeah,
And like the way that you found that software product, but you wouldn't have been able to do that had you not been on that
correct.
that journey.
Nor
at all.
we weren't looking for it,
Yeah.
or we didn't come out of school and go, do you know what? One
Oh,
day
we're
I'm
gonna
going
do
to do
that.
that.
Because that's really
Yeah.
indicative to me of how life and business works.
You cannot.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You're kind of like in it at the right moment. And you like see that
Yeah.
opportunity, and no one else can really see
Yeah.
what you can see.
I think what would be interesting is if
But you know,
Anybody
1.5
who's-
billion of revenue a year that's getting traded through like that. It's just so much volume.
yeah, it exploded.
Yeah,
It really did. And it was just at that point of like when Bitcoin was just starting to go,
yeah,
and everybody,
yeah. Because as the price goes up as well.
yeah, it was fun. It's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. That's why
And
it's
it's-
just.
it-
I find those things.
Do you know, there's
interesting,
part of me
inspiring.
also that like I don't think any of my friends ever walked into my office, you know, out in Malta. One member of my family, you know, came out there once. It's a bit of a shame no one ever saw it. You know, there are times when I think, I wish someone had seen it to experience it. Like just sit there for the day and just watch.
Was it just because it was
this-
so fast, or
it was
like just
it-
you were just so
it
head down
was-
and just not the opportunity to?
I had no need for them to come over. Like it was a bit like, listen, I'm going to be working, and when
Yeah.
I'm not working, I'm coming home for the weekend or I'm that. So if you want to come over, fine. But all you'd be doing is sitting in the corner of an office. So weirdly, no one ever bothered. Because I think they all had visions that I'm sort of, you know, down at the beach bars and
Yeah.
having a great time. When in reality, I was just grafting.
Grafting, yeah.
But it's a shame that I couldn't capture that and show people and say, oh, you know, come and have a look at this. And because you'd walk into a, you know, great big call center and it was just noise and activity and, you know, different faces. And, well, I've never seen that person before, but will they still be in next? It was just good fun. So that's the only thing I kind of miss.
Yeah. Well, you say, like you're doing really cool stuff at the moment, though, aren't you?
Yeah, I enjoy it. I really enjoy it. So,
Top man. Well, my last question that brings it on too nicely is dinner party,
yes.
dead or alive. You get
Oh,
3
God.
guests. Who would you have and why?
Dead or alive? I'll take you.
That's
You
very
come
kind.
along.
I've
Come
never
along.
had that answer.
you go.
Let's go on
No,
it,
that's
but I'll
fine.
take it. Thanks, mate. I'm going to bring my
Only
10
'cause-
million quid with me.
Oh yeah.
From my
Sound like I've
company.
got to bring mine,
salary.
haven't Who? My granddad.
Mhm.
I'd like to him. Because he's an interesting guy in his own right.
Uh-huh.
His background was banking and finance, but he was quite an interesting chap by what he developed. Because he developed the BACS transfer.
Right, okay.
So, essentially came up with that in the late 60s. And unfortunately, he died when I was sort of in my early teens, sort of mid-teens. I didn't get a chance to really pick his brains on...
You'll have a lot of similarities, I'm sure, the two. Well, it's in the DNA, right? But
yeah.
like the journey you've been on and the journey that he,
And that's the
creating
weird
backs.
thing.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing about it, is he was a bank manager. He was an everyday Midland bank manager, which was former, you know, what HSBC was prior to that, it was Midland Bank. So he was a bank manager. Then he moved up to the city, got a job in the head office, which is now the Ned, the hotel.
Yeah, I know it, yeah.
So his
Been
office
there.
was in there. And then, yeah, kind of basically came up with the concept of the BACS transfer. So he's an interesting guy. So I'd like to have a chat with him.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
And bit of a character by all accounts, according to my mum. So
Nice.
yeah. Who else would I have? you know what, Josh? That'll do.
That'll do. Me,
I'll
you,
have-
and your
I'll,
granddad.
The three of us will have a good
Yeah,
time.
we would do.
And he was a bit wild.
Yeah.
So
Well, we
it'd
definitely
be
have a good time.
night.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Look, again, thank you so much for your time. It's really nice spending time with you.
And you.
And
Thanks for the
yeah, I look
invite.
forward to many of these in the future.
Yeah.
Cheers, Dave.
Thanks, mate.
Top man.